Hey guys, it's Simon here, the Hobbies Man. Once again, and today we're doing another book review. Today we're doing a book review for the June on the Range reading event. Today we're looking at the Trailsman. This is number 322. It's called The Apache Ambush. And this is written by John Sharp, which is a pseudonym or a nom de plume for a group of people that write these books. I don't think a single person can write 322 of these, but John Sharp is a house name, I guess, is the right name for that. This is published by Signet. This is a Signet Western, as you guys can see there. It's about 170 pages. It's not too long, and it's pretty easy to read. The text block isn't too small, but it's not big either. It's kind of normal sized, and this demographic for this book is adult. This is under the genre of adult Western, which means that it's a Western story that actually features sex, right? And the characters actually engage in it, and they describe it for you in lurid detail. It's basically the male equivalent of a bodice ripper, more or less, although not quite as as crazy from my understanding. I've never read a bodice ripper, but if it's anything like the romantasy type stuff, I'm sure that it's a lot more engaging than this, right? The way that this is written. The adaptation for this does not exist, although I can see this being like a set of anthology type, like series. Like if TV was still made like it used to be, where a season just had a bunch of individual stories that all tied together through the cast, I could see this being a television show. You just have a cool dude playing a Western guy, and he goes from town to town doing jobs that are all kind of pretty separate, but maybe they tie into each other every once in a while. That would be really fun. I don't think that exists though, so there is no adaptation for this, although it'd be interesting to see. The rating for this is a 4 out of 5. I thought it was pretty good. It was enjoyable. It was nice and easy read. I read it in about 3 hours. Maybe 4 actually. I read it over the evening one day last week, and it was pretty fun. I definitely want to buy more of them, but I don't necessarily think that it's something that you really want to go out of your way to collect a bunch and then read one after the other. This is very much a kind of like palate cleanser type book. It's a book that isn't really that amazing, but it's good enough to keep you engaged for a few hours, and that you're going to be reading in between stuff that you care more about or stuff that is a bit harder to grasp or deal with, right? This is a very kind of surface level type story, and it's kind of like a popcorn movie. It's that same kind of idea, right? So with that said, the premise of this book is that there's this guy, his name is Sky Fargo. He is the main character. He is the Trailsman, and he carries around a Colt. So his villains or the enemies taste the Trailman's Colt, and this character, Sky Fargo, makes his way to a town called Hot Springs. He is found by these two gentlemen. One of them is called Mr. Cranmeyer, and he is accompanied by his guard, Mr. Krupp, and they dog Sky Fargo into joining their supply train, I guess is what you could call it. There's some sort of like traveling trading caravan or something, and they're trying to get to a different city called Silverlode, I think, and they want him to join them as security detail. They need a guy that is willing to protect them and that is very likely to reach for his gun as quickly as possible. And Mr. Cranmeyer has heard of Sky Fargo, of the Trailsman, and he wants him on his team. The thing is that Sky Fargo is not interested. He does not care about this duty that has been given to him, and he does not really want to do it at all. He just kind of wants to hang out for a bit. And so the first third of the book, I guess, is really just about getting to the point where Fargo agrees to go with Cranmeyer, and then from there it's about dealing with the reason why he went with Cranmeyer, and then finally kind of wrapping up the story, right? And it's pretty fun. I did enjoy myself. So plotline wise, we arrive at Hot Springs with Fargo. He goes immediately to a bar or a saloon, and he meets Mr. Cranmeyer and Krupp. Then he is asked to be their guide or guard for their wagon train. He declines very enthusiastically. And then a female character shows up. Her name is Tilly. She is the dove of the saloon, or she's kind of like the barmaid wench type character, but also potentially also a whore. It's kind of unclear. I'm not really sure. I think she is. but not quite the way that we would think of them, like in a medieval city or something like that. Like it's not like a whorehouse type of situation. She's just kind of like the girl that works at the bar that on the side, is willing to do stuff like that. But it doesn't. There is no exchange of money between them, so it's a bit different. So if I'm wrong on the significance of her title or her job, please let me know down in the comments. And so they start getting to know each other, and when they do, Tilly realizes that her stalker is back. This guy who's a prospector who took a liking to Tilly because she was nice to him, and he kind of doesn't understand what the situation is. And so he tries to kind of claim her as his own, take her back with him to his mine, and to make her his wife, not because he cares about her, but because he wants someone else to do all of the jobs that he doesn't want to do. And so Fargo ends up killing him after this guy creates this altercation at the saloon that leads to gunshots, right? As he kills this guy, he and Tilly, start making out, and then they eventually go to her house. Then Tilly returns to work for something, and in that time period where she's gone, what happens is that another prospector shows up to make sure that Sky Fargo is not going to lay claim to the first prospector's land. And there's another altercation, and of course, Fargo has to shoot this guy as well, which means that kill two prospectors, and then he finally gets to go with this girl, Tilly. And then the next day, after they're all done with their stuff, Mr. Cranmeyer shows up again, or actually Mr. Krupp shows up, and he's here to recruit Sky. And Sky does not want to go with him, and so Mr. Krupp is like, "I'm sorry, I gotta let these people loose on you." And what follows is the introduction of the three Fraser sisters, who are kind of the main girls of the book, if you could call it that. These three are triplets. They're identical. They wear different colored shirts so you can tell them apart. And their names are Myrtle, Millie, or something like that. Let's see. Myrtle, Mavis, and Cleopatra. And Cleopatra has a thing about her name because everyone else in her family has M names for the female, members of her family, and she's the only weird one with a C name, and she gets upset about it, right? And these chicks apparently are super duper hot, even though they're also very rough and tumble kind of characters, which, I guess kind of plays into that cowgirl fantasy that a lot of people have, which works. And so he's like, fuck. Sky Fargo's only weakness is women. There's three really hot ones right now, and they all want to sleep with me as long as I go on this trip. I guess I'll do it. And so he joins with Mr. Krupp and Mr. Cranmeyer, and he becomes a scout for their wagon train. And so once they start leaving, Mr. Cranmeyer tells him, hey, there's this guy, Jefferson Grind. He is my competition, and he's pretty hardcore, and he's going to come after us pretty seriously. So you got to be careful. You got to watch out for him, right? And Sky Fargo does. And immediately he kills 4 men. And then they continue on through the journey, right? As they go through the journey, Sky Fargo befriends another one of these guard guys called Stack. And he and Stack realize that there is an Apache or a half-blood, I guess you could call him. He's half Apache, half white, character called Farco, who is hunting them. And he is in league with Jefferson Grinds. And so Sky has to deal with this crazy guy who is super awesome at, bushcraft, basically. And he does a lot of stuff that really freaks Sky Fargo out. But he's a tough guy, though, so he doesn't let it get to him that much. And so the rest of the story is really him dealing with Farco and sleeping with one of the Fraser sisters, realizing the other two want him, and then dealing with the fact that the Fraser sisters are kind of crazy in a way that is important for them. They are women in a field and in an area where mostly women don't exist. And so they have to be very, very hardcore in order for them to gain respect. And so there's this young character who sees these really hot women and he wants to claim one of them, and they get mad at him and they whip his eyes out. They carry these buckskin whips and they use them very effectively, and they whip his face, and they do it in such a way that his eyes basically break. And so this guy is blinded, and they go to kill him when everyone else manages to stop them from doing so. And so Sky is kind of upset with them. He's like, I don't know. This is kind concerning. I don't want to associate with you, but he kind of does anyway. So he kind of spends the rest of the novel trying to figure out what's going on, what his feelings about them are. The story continues on in this fashion for a little bit longer. Mostly Fargo dealing with the Fraser twins and triplets and with Fargo. And then eventually the story kind of just decides to finish. And this is when we see that Jefferson Grind and Fargo have teamed up. They have gotten the Apaches to work with them, and they're about to hunt down Cranmeyer's wagon train. And so they have this really cool battle. And throughout it, Fargo's team kind of seems to be winning, and then they start losing, and then Fargo gets in trouble, and then eventually he manages to shoot Jefferson Grinds and Fargo, and this forces the Apache to scatter into the winds, and so Cranmeyer gets to make it all the way to his destination. Fargo gets to sleep with the Fraser twins, or the Fraser sisters, triplets, a bit longer, and the end of the conflict ensues, and the story moves on with Fargo kind of going on his next adventure at the end here. And overall, it was really fun. I enjoyed myself. I had a good time reading this, and I would definitely read more of them. I kind of want to go back and read some of the earlier ones, and I do want to continue to collect them in this style. I really like this, way in which this is organized, where you have, an action sequence, one of the pretty girls from the novel, and then a different sequence there portrayed in the cover. So, yeah, in terms of characters, we have Sky Fargo, Tilly, Cranmeyer, and Krupp, Myrtle, Mavis, Cleopatra, which are the Fraser sisters, Jeff Grinds, Stack, and Fargo. And in terms of our rating, you have 4.5 out of 5 for me. Actually, I might have said 4 out of 5 earlier. It doesn't matter. More than a 4, less than a 5. Whatever range that means to you, that's where I'm kind of landing here. It's not necessarily the most amazing book ever. I think the Louis L'Amour books are significantly better than this, but there are differences that are kind of important depending on your feelings at the moment of reading, right? So this is significantly more accessible than a Louis L'Amour book in the sense that this is something that I'm willing to pick up whenever and that I'll probably get through pretty easily. A Louis L'Amour book is a bit denser. It's a bit more literary, if that makes sense. This is kind of like a very pulpy pop fiction kind of thing. It's not supposed to be very difficult. It's not supposed to be super amazing. It's just supposed to be serviceable and something that you read for the heck of it, just for entertainment. There is no further value than that, right? Which is kind of the vast majority of stuff that I prefer to read. Whereas a Louis L'Amour book kind of feels a bit more serious than that, a little bit more literary. And so the writing style is also pretty different, accounting to the fact that this was released significantly later in time. Let me see exactly when. This is from 2008, whereas the Louis L'Amour book is from significantly further in the past, right? And so what happens is that the style is different, the writing feels different and not quite the same, and this is significantly more accessible. So this is something I would pick up whenever, whereas the Louis L'Amour books are something that I'll probably pick up for more specific situations where I want to, get myself into a proper appreciation of the Western, right? And so that's kind of the difference there. So this is probably much more in line with what most people read. And if you're interested in Westerns, I definitely recommend you check one of these out. But, remember that it's going to be, depending on your preferences for adult content, you might or might not like this, right? So those are my thoughts there on the Trailsman, Apache Ambush. If you've read this book before, or if you've read any of the other Trailsmans, let me know down in the comments. And thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and see you guys later.